So something that I wanted to talk about was Huck's growth throughout the story and like his development with his ideas of Jim. Like something that I noticed is that he grows like his ideas of Jim change throughout the story. Like in chapter 16, he talks about how he feels really bad for giving up Jim because he says, what had poor Miss Watson done to you that you could ever see her and would go off right under her eyes? And he's just like talking about how he feels kind of bad for letting Jim go or like trying to free him. But then like throughout the story we see that he's changing his ideas. Like in chapter 20 when the two conmen are at like kind of interrogating him, he sticks up for Jim saying that he's not a runaway, that he's actually like his slave, like without really second guessing himself. He just kind of defends him without really thinking about it. And again in chapter 24, he says when the Dauphin and the Duke are talking and they're like exchanging hands or whatever, he says, well, if I ever struck anything like that, I'm an N-word. It was enough to make a body ashamed of the human race. I feel like there he's really acknowledging that like is equal. Everyone's equal, and that like I feel there that he's really acknowledging how there isn't really much of a difference between like a colored person and another person. Like everyone, he doesn't say that it makes a body ashamed of like white people or other people. It's basically just saying the human race is one. He doesn't separate them. So I feel like there that really shows an improvement throughout the story of Jim. Another thing that I wanted to acknowledge was like the use of the N-word throughout the story. I feel like changing the N-word to slave or anything else would really just change the story as a whole, because Mark Twain goes out of his way to come up with all these different dialects and ways of saying these sentences that are so structured for the effect of like old times, that if you were to change the N-word, it would really just like change the story. An example would be an example I've previously used in chapter 24 when he says, well, if I ever struck anything like it, I'm a slave. It doesn't have the same context as if he says I'm an N-word. Like it completely adds the setting to the story. It adds the old American ways of viewing things. It adds a completely different viewpoint from using just that simple word, especially because like it comes up so many times within the beginning texts when he's initially talking about Jim and just society as a whole. I feel like changing the N-word would definitely change the context of the story.